came across a really interesting case back in 2016 that completely blew up all over social media. And I spent about 20 to 30 hours researching it personally, because when conspiracy theories come up, I'll usually invest a little bit of time. I wanted to see, does this really check out? And while there was a lot of sensationalist information and disinformation surrounding this particular conspiracy, and while there's a lot of speculation, false conclusions, people were dragging in people that weren't really involved, and while it ultimately got shut down, the Pizzagate narrative, the Pizzagate conspiracy and story is something that if you actually look at it and investigate it thoroughly, there are some things that pop up that range from highly disturbing to extremely, extremely suspicious. So the Pizzagate narrative is this idea that in a place called Comet Ping Pong, a pizza shop in Washington, D.C., owned by someone named James Alefantis, that's a really important name, we'll come back to that, there was a sex trafficking ring that was operating that involved Tony and John Podesta and maybe even the Clintons. Where did this idea come from? It came from WikiLeaks emails that were revealed to be sent and received by people like the Clintons, like the Podestas, that involved very, very strange hidden code words involving hot dogs and pizza. It sounds crazy, but we're going to look at this, that are very clearly indicating something other than food.
The Clinton campaign calls this a crime reminiscent of Watergate, but worse. More than 1,900 emails released just this weekend. We are talking about a slow leak every day, a new batch. And the Clinton campaign knows this could be a problem for them every day until Election Day.
This morning, thousands more emails appearing to show the inner workings of Hillary Clinton's campaign. WikiLeaks releasing the newest batch of what are believed to be campaign chairman John Podesta's hacked emails. ABC News has not independently verified the emails. The Clinton campaign not responding to individual documents, instead accusing the Russians of orchestrating the hack to help Donald Trump win.
I don't give credence to any of these dumped documents because I don't even know if they're accurate.
A slow drip that has not let up. 12,000 emails so far. Everything from when Clinton should laugh during debates.
Woo, okay.
To her private speeches to Wall Street that seem to contradict her public positions. Even this one, claiming Clinton told a private trade union gathering that extreme environmentalists need to, quote, get a life.
An Urban Dictionary, people found out, defines these words as slang used within the pedophile community. So here are a few examples of that. The first one was sent to John Podesta. Hi, John. The realtor found a handkerchief. I think it has a map that seems pizza related. Is it yours? They can send it if you want. I know you're busy, so feel free not to respond if it's not yours or you don't want it. So John Podesta has a handkerchief that has a pizza-related map. Could this be code language for something else? Another email entitled Chicago Hot Dog Friday reveals more of this same language. Quote, I think Obama spent about $65,000 of the taxpayers' money flying in pizza and hot dogs from Chicago for a private party at the White House. The person responds in the email thread, quote, if we get the same quote-unquote waitresses, I'm all for it. Now, a couple questions come to mind when reading this email. Firstly, aren't there other pizza and hot dog places in Washington, D.C.? Second of all, it's a 2-hour flight. Wouldn't they get cold by the time they get there? And thirdly, what are they going to do with 10,000 plus pizzas and hot dogs? If you divide 65,000 by 2 and speculate that they spent $32,500 on pizza and hot dogs, if it's $10 per pizza and about $4.50 per hot dog, you're looking at 3,250 pizzas and 7,222 hot dogs. That's enough food to feed over 30,000 people. So is this referencing flying 10,000 pizzas and hot dogs 2 hours to a private party to feed a stadium full of people, or is this code reference for something else? Here's another one sent to John Podesta. The next 3 months are going to be rougher internally than in Beijing. Between 7th and 1600, no fun. Hope you're doing okay. I'm dreaming about your hot dog stand in Hawaii. So not only does John Podesta have a pizza-related map on his handkerchief, he has a hot dog stand in Hawaii as well. Now, these are 100% code words. What they're code words for, that could be speculated about, but this really comes back to a person named James Alefantis, who is revealed in the WikiLeaks emails to have very, very close associations with Tony Podesta, with John Podesta, and with Hillary Clinton. He is someone that they invited to have over to their house over and over again to be a guest chef, and WikiLeaks emails also documented that they were having political fundraisers at Comet Ping Pong. Here is a WikiLeaks email showing that James Alefantis was a participant at a fundraising event of Tony Podesta's. Quote, "You are attending a fundraising event in support of Hillary for America that your brother Tony Podesta is spearheading. Participants, you, Tony Podesta, James Alefantis, owner of Comet Ping Pong." Here's another one. Quote, "I wanted to flag a dinner I'm doing at my house on October 6th for Hillary, doing a fundraiser at my house with my brother John on October 6th at my house. John and I are cooking along with guest chef James Alefantis of Comet Ping Pong." Here is yet another linking the Podestas and Comet Ping Pong with political fundraisers. James Alefantis says to John Podesta, "Hello, some young lawyer-type friends of mine are hosting an Obama fundraiser at Comet Ping Pong on Thursday night. Would you be willing to stop by around 8 o'clock or so and make a little speech? What can we do afterward? Would you like to have dinner at my place? Big or small, what do you think? See you then. Yours, James Alefantis." John Podesta replies saying he will be there at 8:30 and that they can get together later in the week, to which someone else replies saying, quote, "Maybe Comet Ping Pong would be a good place for a C4 fundraiser too." These men are clearly close companions and friends. You can only address someone as yours if you are very close to them. Here is a letter written by Hillary Clinton and signed by her personally, thanking James Alefantis for being the cook at her fundraiser hosted at the Podestas. The Pizzagate conspiracy really took off online when people began to research James Alefantis, his connection to Tony Podesta, and the Comet Ping Pong pizza shop, and discovered some facts that are highly disturbing and suspicious. While there may not be enough in the Pizzagate conspiracy to prosecute anyone in the court of law, and while there actually may not be enough hard evidence to even open a criminal investigation in the first place, there are a bunch of facts surrounding the Podestas, Comet Ping Pong, and James Alefantis that range from highly disturbing to extremely, extremely suspicious and raise some serious red flags. There are some photos of bands who played at Comet Ping Pong that raise some serious red flags. And remember, these are often all ages events with children in attendance. There are also some very disturbing posters produced by Comet Ping Pong. A poster of a band coming through called the Sex Stains. A poster with an animal skull with an upside-down cross on its head. And a poster with a demented-looking devil head on it marked all ages, as though to say this is appropriate for young children. There's also a very creepy-looking mural that was on the wall at Comet Ping Pong, painted by an artist who paints artwork containing orgies and snake symbolism, some of which is far too graphic to share. A photo taken at Comet Ping Pong surfaced of a drag queen covered in fake blood on Halloween, taken of someone who was either close to them or worked with them. There were many more deranged posts on their social media, but a lot of them were cleaned up when the allegations began, and a lot of their social media profiles were set to private so that nobody can see their profiles. There are very rare photos screenshotted from that time that you simply can't find online anymore. Another thing that was very troubling for online investigators was to find out that right beside Comet Ping Pong was a place called Besta Pizza. And Besta Pizza had a logo that contained a trademark pedophile logo as identified by the FBI called the Loverboy logo. Their storefront and mobile website from the time clearly reveal this very distinct triangular shape. This logo stirred up a lot of uproar when people discovered an unclassified FBI document on WikiLeaks titled, quote, "Symbols and Logos Used by Pedophiles to Identify Sexual Preferences." Here's what it had to say about this particular logo. Quote, "The Loverboy logo is a small blue spiral-shaped triangle surrounded by a larger triangle, whereby the small triangle represents a small boy and the larger triangle represents an adult man." According to this FBI document, quote, "Pedophile activists advocate for the social acceptance of sexual relationships between adults and children. These organizations seek to decriminalize sexual relationships between adults and children and to legalize child pornography based on their belief that children have the ability to consent to sexual acts. Identical or similar jewelry and symbols as described in this intelligence bulletin should raise suspicion of possible pedophilia activity when found during searches. Investigators should also be attentive to pedophile symbols advertised on websites." When Best of Pizza began to be questioned about this, they ended up changing their logo, saying, quote, "We respect everybody's lifestyle, but weren't aware of what this logo meant." They said that they got there before Comet Ping Pong was even there and have since permanently closed their business. The Comet Ping Pong logo itself also poses problems, where in each corner of the logo, there's a moon crescent and an upside-down pentagram, very clearly resembling key markings on the Baphomet imagery, something also talked about by Aleister Crowley and something that has been loosely adopted by modern-day Satanism and Luciferianism. The only real difference between this and the Baphomet image is that the Comet Ping Pong stars are upside down where Baphomet is upright, giving us 4 satanic pentagrams. This caused investigators to believe that there was involvement with dark occultic practice and maybe even the ritual child abuse that sometimes accompanies the dark occult. Now, it's entirely possible that the Best of Pizza logo and the Comet Ping Pong logo are purely coincidence and have no relationship to pedophilia or the occult. That's definitely possible. But what remains is the clear documentation showing that Comet Ping Pong has a very deranged sense of art that involves sexual innuendos involving young children. And this is ultimately because the owner, James Alefantis, has the exact same palette for artistry. James Alefantis is the guy at the heart of the Pizzagate conspiracy. And one of the first things online investigators pointed out was that his name, James Alefanti, sounds a lot like J'aime l'enfant, I love babies, or I like children in French. And in fact, his social media profile right now on Instagram, under his nickname Jimmy Comet, is one of a Greek boy named Antinous, who became the boy lover of Roman Emperor Hadrian at age 13 and became the ancient symbol of pederastic love between men and prepubescent boys. James himself is a homosexual, and with the amount of children's birthday parties he hosts at Comet Ping Pong, and the exposure of these children to sexual innuendos at a very young age, it doesn't seem too inconsistent to think maybe he has a sexual fascination with younger males himself. The idea is that by naming yourself James Alefantis, making sure it sounds something similar to J'aime l'enfant, it's a way of advertising what you're interested in. Maybe it's a way of advertising what you are looking for, or maybe even what services you are offering. It's similar to a pedophile website or a pedophile joint that will incorporate known pedophile logos into their websites or into their branding as a way to let people know and to signal to others what they're actually involved in or seek to be involved in. Unfortunately for James Alefantis, or J'aime l'enfant, his Instagram profile was absolutely littered with very strange, peculiar photos of very young children during the time of the Pizzagate allegations. One picture talks about how a baby doll he saw, named German Baby, is extremely overpriced at $1,200. Another is of his quote-unquote goddaughter chewing on stacks of euros. A photo that made mainstream news was one of this same goddaughter taped to a table at Comet Ping Pong. Even if Comet Ping Pong isn't the sender of a sex trafficking ring, what do these pictures of these children seem to insinuate? What investigators also began to notice was that this quote-unquote goddaughter of his always seemed to look worn out, tired, and even abused. The reason an arrow is pointed on this photo in particular is because online investigators discovered that someone who used to work for the White House from 2012 to 2013 as a deputy associate counsel in the office of the White House frequently liked James Alefantis photos, especially those of little children. He was also a chief of the Southern Division of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Maryland, located in Greenbelt, Maryland, where in 2010 he was part of a prosecution panel that ended up sentencing someone to prison for the possession of child pornography. People began to suspect that this was either an enabler or a client of his, though this is pure speculation. His Instagram account has since been deleted. A picture with a very clear reference to pedophilia was present on his Instagram. It depicted a man, a friend of his, holding a baby child with the hashtag chicken lover. A chicken lover is well known to be slang for adults who are attracted to underage males, similar to the title, quote, chicken hawk, which has the same meaning in the pedophilia domain. Another photo surfaced with adolescent boys wearing masks, as though they were part of some kind of ceremony. The one on the far right looks extremely young by his body structure and maybe no older than 16 years. It was also discovered that he ran a visual art organization called Transformer Art, where he serves as board president. It contains very strange sexual art, such as aliens trying human genitalia, and hosting an entire exhibit featuring art that was made exclusively from menstrual blood. A post of his that drew mass attention appears to be some kind of cooler room or a giant refrigerator with some kind of stains going along the right side of the floor. His one friend commented hashtag kill room. His other friend commented just rinse it off when you're done. And he himself commented hashtag murder. This is the photo that led people to believe that maybe in the basement of Comet Ping Pong was a kill room, where children were sexually abused and then disposed of, possibly involving a tunnel system of some kind. Every major news tabloid from Fox News to the Washington Post to NBC described the Pizzagate conspiracy as being tied to the basement of Comet Ping Pong because of this particular photo. As far as mainstream coverage of this photo went, James Alefantis, Fox News, BBC, Rolling Stone, and even John Podesta himself went on record saying that there is no basement in Comet Ping Pong. When Fox News had James Alefantis onto their news network in studio, they posted a picture of the photo, conveniently left out his comment, hashtag murder, and his friend's comments, hashtag murder, and just rinse it off when you're done, and said with confidence, there is no basement at Comet Ping Pong.
And this picture that conspiracy theorists decided must be the secret basement where children are locked up. But in fact, it's from a restaurant Alefantis considered leasing. And Comet Ping Pong doesn't even have a basement.
The problem with this is that it's simply not true, and we can document this. An interview was done in 2015, April of 2015, on Metro Weekly with James Alefantis. The article is still available online. And he clearly says that there is a basement in Comet Ping Pong and that he stores canned tomatoes down there. Here is the original quote. "Well, we make everything from scratch. Other restaurants will not roast their own peppers. You can just buy the roasted peppers in a can, or you can buy garlic oil. Some products you can get and they're consistent and they're easy, but I didn't even know that existed actually until they said that. I was like, what do you mean? There's another way you can just buy these things? Because a lot of restaurants will open a can and put it on. Like our sauce. We harvest a whole crop of organic tomatoes, 10 tons of tomatoes every year, can them all, store them in the basement, have like a harvest party. when it gets loaded in. None of the media outlets, or anyone who accused this of being quote-unquote fake news, addressed the fact that James himself said the restaurant had a basement in 2015. Now, this does not prove the kill room photo was located there or that there's a kill room at all, but it does suggest that there is deception going on in order to dismiss the Pizzagate narrative. Before we look at what I believe to be the smoking gun of this Pizzagate story, we have to ask the question, how did someone like this, a regular, ordinary pizza shop owner, get voted as one of the 50 most powerful men in Washington by GQ magazine? And why does he hang out? How does he hang out with so many big name celebrities? Of course, he's a Democratic donor, but as a politician, wouldn't you want to avoid an environment where drag queens are performing while children are present using sexual innuendos? Wouldn't you want to avoid someone whose social media is littered with very peculiar pictures of little children and hashtags of kill room, murder, and chicken lover? Unless, of course, you're a politician with the exact same interest and slant that he has, such as a John Podesta or a Tony Podesta. And what people pointed out during the Pizzagate investigation was Tony Podesta, his house has been documented to be littered with pedophilia artwork and artwork that may even indicate child abuse. A photo of his living room, as featured in the Washington Life magazine published in June of 2015, still available online, contains a troubling art piece on the back wall. When zoomed in, it's clear that this girl looks underaged and abused. Two others were identified in his house of what appeared to be children lying down, with two girls laying next to each other in a swamp, appearing to be dead. Further research proves that this artist has painted some very disturbing images of children being abused and hung from the ceiling, which have since been removed from the artist's website. While we don't have evidence that these particular pictures are in the Podesta residence, it does raise a major red flag as to why someone would support an artist who is depicting what can only be interpreted as ritual child abuse. People began looking further into this strange taste in art of his and located a troubling publication from the Washington Post. According to a 2004 article still available by the Washington Post that focused on the art collection of Heather and Tony Podesta, Heather recalls Tony remarking, quote, "I don't know why it is, but I have artwork where the women have no heads." According to this article, quote, "The pictures ringing Tony's 9th floor office at Podesta Mattoon deliver an unusual welcome. One shows a boy, seemingly born from a sewing machine. Another finds a young girl knitting her own hair. A third has a naked woman immersed in blood-red liquid. Tony favors art with in-your-face nudity," end quote. It should be noted that the artwork of the girl knitting her own hair is of a topless girl no older than 10 years old. The article also documents an 8-foot-tall photograph of a fully naked man that they have hanging up in their house. But most troubling is this statement. Quote, "Folks attending a house tour in the Lake Barcroft neighborhood in Falls Church earlier this year got an eyeful when they walked into a bedroom at the Podesta residence hung with multiple color pictures by Katie Grannon, a photographer known for documentary-style pictures of naked teenagers in their parents' suburban homes. What mainstream media didn't address, and what people who were crying fake news didn't address, was the fact that we have mainstream media outlets documenting that Tony Podesta has artwork hanging up in his house of underaged naked children. This article also documents that he held an art exhibit at his house for an artist named Patricia Pacini, who is known for creepy artwork that often involves little children. Some show alien-like creatures stroking and embracing little kids. And last but not least, Tony Podesta has a hanging sculpture of a contorted headless man hanging from his ceiling, as documented in the Washington Life article. This sculpture has almost the exact same body shape as one of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims, and is intended to express a condition known as hysteria, where the body is launched into contorted positions during times of anxiety attacks or extreme pain. James Alefantis posted this artwork to his Instagram, indicating that he was present at the Podesta home. What the mainstream media outlets conveniently left out is the fact that we can document that James Alefantis has used pedophile code words in posts on Instagram involving young children, that Tony Podesta's art collection is littered with pictures of underage teenage girls, younger children, that would classify as pedophile artwork, and Comet Ping Pong itself has very disturbing performances of drag queens making sexual innuendos to young children. Now, this isn't proof of pedophilia. This isn't proof that there's a sex child trafficking ring involved, but it does make you ask the question, if these people are diametrically opposed to pedophilia to such a strong degree that any charge against them is completely blasphemous, why do they have this artwork hanging up in the living rooms of their houses, and why are they bragging about it? Why has it been documented as early as 2004? Just before social media outlets like Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook began deleting posts and suspending accounts for posting fake news regarding the Pizzagate conspiracy, there was a very interesting turn in development that began when online investigators discovered something known as the Pegasus Museum. The Pegasus Museum is owned by James Alefantis, who apparently had enough money in 2014 to purchase and renovate this big building in Washington just from being a Comet Ping Pong pizza owner. And it's located in the back alley between two main streets. It's not even visible from the main road. There's a child's playground about 1 block away, 50 feet away from his building. It's a private museum. It's not advertised publicly. He doesn't post about it anywhere on social media. There's no sign out front, no logo, no indication that it is a museum. And people who were local to that area said that they had no idea that a museum was even there. Google pictures showing the location of this building identify it's in an alley between two main streets. Its location is 3518 11th Street Northwest, and it was purchased in 2014 by Castellum Achilles, LLC. The articles of incorporation for Castellum Achilles LLC tell us that James Alefantis is the CEO and governor of this corporation, and video documentation showing a building permit taped on the door of this building identifies that it does in fact belong to Castellum Achilles, aka James Alefantis. Where this got interesting for people is when they began to match the interior of the Pegasus Museum with renovation pictures James Alefantis was posting to his social media, which showed a very distinct brick pattern inside, a massive hole being dug into the ground, and what appears to be an underground trench or tunnel system being dug throughout the house. It was suspected by people that maybe this museum has the kill room that everyone was talking about. A picture he posted to social media of the construction shows light coming in from the door that matches perfectly with the positioning of the door on the front wall of the exterior of Pegasus Museum. And the corners of the wall on the interior of the room match the exterior of the Pegasus Museum perfectly. Some obvious questions would be, why is James Alefantis deliberately hiding this museum from the public? Given what we know about his taste in art and the taste of art of those who are very close to him in his inner circle, why is he spending all this money investing and reconstructing in a building that nobody would be seeing except private guests of his? And why is he digging tunnels and trench systems underneath the floor of this building? Could it be that maybe there's some truth to the Pizzagate narrative after all that involves the Pegasus Museum? One online investigator, whose name we're going to protect for the sake of privacy, made a video going through all the evidence linking the Pegasus Museum and the digging of the trenches to James Alefantis. And James Alefantis contacted him personally in response to this video. While we can't be certain that there's anything pedophilia related or sex trafficking related attached to this building, posting about it was enough to get James Alefantis' attention. We have video documentation proving that James Alefantis reached out to this investigator over Facebook. showing clearly it was his profile that was messaging him, asking if they could get in touch. They exchanged numbers, and James Alefantis is documented as having said, "All right, you win. Everything they say about me is true. Keep your kill room stuff, just take down the Pegasus stuff. No waves." He also posted pictures of the investigator with his girlfriend in their chat saying, "Cute girlfriend," indicating he was threatening their lives unless he complied. The investigator claims that he had a prior call with Alefantis where he threatened to kill his mother and girlfriend as well. The investigator ended up taking down the original video, though it can still be located online. He claims he made a report to the DC Police Department, who had previously dismissed the entire Pizzagate story as nonsense. Pegasus Museum was subsequently listed as, quote, permanently closed on Google, and then was removed from Google altogether. The Pegasus Museum element of the Pizzagate conspiracy is largely unknown even in the online world because it was smothered so quickly by James Alefantis, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram that it really had no time to circulate. For example, on Instagram, there are hundreds of thousands of hashtags that involve Pizzagate or Pedogate or Pizzagate like hashtags. Whereas there's only about 10 that are hashtag Pegasus Museum, even though this is the smoking gun of the entire Pizzagate narrative. Now, this is all extremely suspicious. Why would you threaten the life of someone saying you're going to kill them, their girlfriend, and their mother if they don't take down the video involving the Pegasus Museum? Why would you make a form of confession by saying, "All right, you win, and everything they say about me is true. Keep the other stuff, just take down the Pegasus Museum stuff"? Why is Pegasus Museum being dug underneath the floorboards? Why are there trenches being made and underground tunnel systems being made? Gigantic holes in other rooms that are clearly connected to that tunnel system. What's the point of pumping all of that money and renovation into a quote-unquote private museum that's not advertised to the public or even open to the public? Why would you have 3 lock systems on each of the doors outside along with a security system? These are all questions we need to be asking about the Pegasus Museum. Why is it hidden from plain sight? Why on the outside of the building alongside the main street, on the brick wall, does it say kids with an arrow pointing down underneath? That could be pure coincidence, but that was something online investigators pointed to as well. There seems to be something very fishy going on with the Pegasus Museum. Now, is there enough going on here to convict someone in a criminal trial? No. Is there enough to even get a search warrant on James Alefantis or the Pegasus Museum? I would still say no. There's not enough hard evidence to suggest probable cause. It's a lot of speculation at this point, but the point is that if liberal-run media outlets wouldn't have smothered this story, wouldn't have suspended accounts, wouldn't have discouraged and put fear into investigators, maybe we would have uncovered this evidence by now. That doesn't mean we can necessarily pass a positive conviction, but to call this fake news, to instantly demonize and stigmatize anyone who might have the wild idea that maybe people with pedophile artwork in their house might have an interest in pedophilia, to instantly demonize that, to dismiss it, and to address none of the actual substance or content of the conspiracy, to me is one of the clearest examples in the last few decades of the topic of sex trafficking being deliberately covered up, potentially by mainstream media sources. I'm not saying that they all had knowledge of all the moving parts of what was going on, but there is a specific agenda to suppress and silence this, and I do believe it's because people at the very high tiers of the power structure in the government began to be concerned that people were getting on their tails and on their tracks, and you have all of these outstanding questions that are still at play, that people are still posting about on social media, and we still have no answers, despite BBC, Fox News, CNN, Washington Post, NBC, all very quick to label this fake news, fake news. You heard it from Hillary Clinton all the time, fake news, fake news. Trump used that and adopted it to CNN, which is kind of funny, but Hillary was using it in the context of the Pizzagate allegations, once again, addressing absolutely none of the evidence that we do have. And I believe the evidence we do have can be summed up in the following 10 questions. Firstly, why are the Podestas using code words involving pizza and hot dogs in their WikiLeaks emails? Why is James Alefantis using pedophile buzzwords in some of his Instagram posts involving little children and making other suggestive posts with young children? Why did James Alefantis and mainstream media lie about Comet Ping Pong not having a basement? Why does Comet Ping Pong host all ages events hosted by drag queens who make sexual innuendos? Why has Comet Ping Pong posted very disturbing photos involving little children on their social media? Why does Tony Podesta have disturbing artwork in his house of naked, underage adolescents and children, and artwork of children who look either abused or dead, painted by someone who has at least 2 art pieces featuring child abuse? What purpose does this hidden, unadvertised, private Pegasus Museum serve, knowing the inappropriate taste in art of him and his associates? Why were massive holes in tunnel systems being dug beneath the floor of Pegasus Museum in a way that we can document? Why did James Alefantis give what seems to be a confession to an online investigator and then threaten his life unless the Pegasus video was taken down? What did this investigator have to gain by taking down a crucial piece of research and dropping out of the investigation altogether right in the heat of it all? And lastly, why were the Washington police and mainstream media so quick to call this fake news, mock investigators, and accuse them of being crazy for suggesting the wild possibility that maybe people who own pedophile artwork, use pedophile code words, and who may even use pedophile symbolism in their own public name might just be involved in pedophilia?
It started with what turned out to be a bogus news story suggesting that Bill and Hillary Clinton were running a sex ring out of a Washington, D.C. pizza parlor. And now this has become the center of a national debate over fake news.
As many controversies do these days, it began with a tweet. On October 30th, days after the FBI announced they'd be reopening an investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails, someone on Twitter, whose name remains unverified but has several thousand followers, posted that new emails found on Anthony Weiner's computer confirmed that Hillary Clinton was involved in a pedophilia ring. The next day, the bogus claim was picked up by a website called YourNewsWire.com, message boards like 4chan and Reddit, right-wing blogs, and several pro-Trump websites. InfoWars' Alex Jones, a far-right web host, posted a YouTube video seen almost 500,000 times. The rumor spread, inspiring some newfound internet sleuths to start digging around in John Podesta's hacked emails, searching for proof and location of the so-called sex ring. What they found were numerous references to pizza, a term Urban Dictionary says is slang for child pornography. So somehow they concluded that Podesta and company were speaking in code. Alefantis was officially part of the conspiracy. He began receiving threatening phone calls with people labeling him a pedophile.
James Alefantis, owner of Comet Ping Pong in Washington, D.C. James, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
What a terrible ordeal this must have been for you.
It has been. It had been building since before the election, so starting on November 4th, I started receiving messages on my Instagram that were just very bizarre and strange and accusing me of all kinds of falseness and conspiracy. And this built and built and built and built for over a month. Then it started to appear that images of children and other people were being taken from social media and blasted throughout the internet with this insane conspiracy idea filled with just lies about this impossible international conspiracy of human traffickers involving Hillary Clinton.
Oh my goodness. And you're a Democratic donor. There's nothing illegal about that.
No.
It doesn't make you a pedophile or somebody who's part of a child sex ring.
People use social media. This is a picture of my godchild in a completely innocent place, very happily playing with her sister. Her sister's taped her hands. Her parents are there. I put this on my Instagram with their approval. Right there, it sits there on the internet for a year and a half, and people start building these lies and falsities about innocent people and then spreading this image over the internet.
People like Alex Jones fanned a conspiracy theory that even the D.C. police say has no basis in fact.
Yes, it's a pack of lies, and it's dangerous.
And to be accused of being a pedophile because you have emails that talk about pizza. When you run a pizza parlor, I mean, there are going to be emails like, well, the word pizza seems out of place. I mean, again, the D.C. police are saying this is fake. Fake.
Thank you. It's true. Yes, it's like being terrorized.
I know Reddit has banned this topic on its website. I mean, slowly but surely, those who help fan it are trying to dial it back out of the safety, out of concerns for the safety of those who have been endangered by
Really, this could happen to anyone. It's not just us. It's any single person.
I know. James, thank you for being here and telling your story.
Thank you so much.
All the best to you.
Thank you.
Mainstream media didn't even attempt to answer any of these questions people had. They dismissed everything under the banner of fake news. All the culprits involved began deleting their posts and history on social media, and before long, social media itself began banning anything that had to do with this topic. I think there's a few reasons why people might be deterred or disinterested from further investigating claims like this. They're scared of being labeled a conspiracy theorist. That's kind of just this broad stroke general title that's been given to demonize anyone who would suggest anything really other than what the mainstream media is force-feeding them. And people don't want to be labeled that among their friends. They don't want to be thought of as, a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist. And I think another reason too is they might feel like they don't really know where to start. There really is a lot of disinformation online. There's a lot of sensationalism. There's a lot of people not bucketing evidence correctly, or they'll find one or two pieces of suggestive evidence and come to a guilty verdict prematurely, and it kind of turns people off. Like, where do I go? Where's a reliable source where people aren't going to sensationalize these things, where I'm actually being given credible information? Another reason for the minority might be that they're scared to talk about it, especially on social media. That was the case for me when I was doing Pizzagate research back in 2016. I was scared of what the implications would be if I posted this stuff. Would I start being surveyed? Would my house be surveyed? Would I be being tracked somehow? Would my conversations be monitored somehow? This stuff's not uncommon. Would I happen to just go missing or commit suicide if I started posting videos about this stuff? It's happened to Pizzagate researchers. It's happened to all kinds of researchers, especially involved in Hillary Clinton-based conspiracies. She has a body count to the moon and back. And this is documented. There's even a Wikipedia page going through a list of people who just so happened to go missing or who were killed mysteriously, who had very close connections, inside information on the Clintons. There was a whole documentary made about one such case in the early 90s. When you're aware of this stuff, it's not exactly an incentive to start posting about this stuff on social media. And for me, I had all this research in front of me. I had a bunch of stuff that has since been completely deleted and expelled from the internet. And I was thinking, I have to make an anonymous video on some obscure IP address from the public library or from a Starbucks or something and upload it from there, because I don't want this tracked back to me somehow. I do think that that is a deterrent for people investigating this. And I really don't think that people have a hard time believing that it's likely, because the Epstein didn't kill himself meme is proof that the majority of people, especially in the online community, especially those who are active on social media, have a general understanding that world elites, people at very high levels of political power, have some kind of interest in sex trafficking rings or pedophilia or something to that effect. That's the reason we can all embrace the Epstein didn't kill himself meme and believe it. Nobody believes that official story. Nobody. We all know something fishy went on. We all know this, but we feel sometimes like we have to whisper about it to one another. We can't really be public and bold about it because of what the dangers may be in speaking out against it. Some people might think, well, I can't really make a difference by posting about it on social media or emailing an article or a video to friends of mine. But I think the Pizzagate conspiracy, the Pizzagate story, is proof that you can make a difference. There was changes made, for example, to the Best of Pizza logo immediately. Pegasus Museum was permanently closed on Google immediately. You better believe that these people, if they are front-running something like this, they're on their heels now. They're probably changing locations. It's a major, major inconvenience to them. People in Comet Ping Pong know at any time of day, anybody can be in there snooping around, recording on their phone, someone who might be a threat to anything that is happening out of there, all because of the ordinary man posting about it on social media over and over and over again. Enough people start doing it, it starts catching their attention, and they might have to suspend what they're doing. They might have to relocate or be inconvenienced, or they might completely back out of it altogether because heat is on them and people are starting to find out actual information about them. And talking about it, posting about it, is one way we can begin to make a difference in this area. When it comes to having hope for the ending of child sex trafficking, personally, I don't believe on this side of heaven that we will ever completely expel sexual perversion from our culture, from our world. It's been present since the dawn of human civilization, and I personally believe that things will get more wicked and more wicked. Now, we can intercept it, we can delay it, we can stifle it from spreading, we can prevent it from occurring. I don't think it will entirely be eliminated, but here's where the hope is. The hope is knowing that you can make a difference, even if you can't expel it completely. You can make a difference in one person's life, in 100 people's lives, in 1,000 people's lives. You can partner with organizations, spread awareness, get people talking, making posts on social media. It helps. It simply does. But our hope ultimately has to come from what God says about the future of mankind in His Word, where He's going to create a new heavens and a new earth wherein dwells righteousness. No sin, every tear has been wiped from every person's eyes, and we are eternally dwelling in the presence of the Lord. My hope is in that. My hope is in the eternal state, right? I'm not looking to this earth and to this timeline to fulfill me and to garner my hope. My hope is in the things to come. My hope comes from my mind being set on things above and not beneath, right? Like Paul says. And so when we look to passages like those in 2 Thessalonians or Revelation 19 or in the book of Jude, where it talks about Jesus coming back and executing judgment, inflicting vengeance upon those who do not love the Lord, who do not obey the gospel of Jesus Christ, and who are involved in ungodly actions. I know that every single wrongdoing ever perpetrated against a child will be vindicated and judged by the Lord. They have an eternal price to pay for that. Nobody's getting away with anything. That's how I could sleep during the Pizzagate research I was doing, knowing that ultimately nobody gets away with anything. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, and he's going to pour out his wrath on this earth, and he's going to pour out his wrath in eternity against them in the second death. And so our hope as Christians, our hope as believers, comes from knowing what God's going to do to restore the world to its intended form, and what he's going to do to those who do not repent and put their faith in Christ, who have done these things to little children who are a part of sex trafficking rings. Nothing escapes his sight. He does not blink at sin. He's a holy God. He's a righteous God. Righteousness and judgment are the foundation of his throne, as it says in Psalms, and every single person is going to be held accountable. We're going to be judged according to our works. And the Bible's very clear. Jesus talks about hell dozens and dozens of times. And I know if people want to play games on this side of heaven, they're going to have hell to pay for it. And, I can rest knowing that the universe is ultimately governed by a sovereign God, an all-powerful God who is in control, who will one day make every wrong right. Now, some people involved in what could be called the light occult, or the good side of the occult, as opposed to the dark occult, might think, well, I'm just in, New Age spirituality. I'm just in kind of like a purified form of what Helena Blavatsky taught or Aleister Crowley taught. I'm not really involved in the same kind of ideologies or practices. I'm not harming anyone. I don't believe in child sacrifice or child ritual or using blood to make contact with demons. And I would say every major occultist in the West for the last 2 centuries had some kind of affinity with Satan or Lucifer and taught and practiced the exact same things you do. And Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, the author of the Satanic Bible, has a famous quote where he accused the New Age movement of ripping off Satanism and said that the very things that they're selling in their shops, tarot card decks, astrology, crystal balls, that they have taken satanic practices, removed the name of the devil, and used them for their own hypocritical purposes. And he says we need to return these practices to the devil where they rightly belong. Aleister Crowley had a school called AA, and in this school, you would learn how to do things like meditate, practice yoga, astral project. You can learn how to do some of this stuff in the Satanic Bible. It would talk about these occult practices, mentions of spirit guides. There's a website called Joy of Satan Ministries. It's a theistic or spiritual satanic website. There's guided meditations, guided visualizations. You can learn about the pineal gland, the use of crystals, the use of past life regressive therapy. Everything I was studying as a New Ager was practiced. It's the same practice and ideology of those who do involve themselves in blood sacrifice, who do involve themselves in child ritual abuse. We just kind of strip the dirty, immoral part away from ultimately the same ideology and the same practices that have historically been tied to Satanism, the dark occult, and Luciferianism. And this is very documentable. And I would encourage people, I would say if your practices, if your ideologies, if your spiritual orientation mirrors that of spiritual Satanism, of Aleister Crowley, of Helena Blavatsky, of Anton LaVey, maybe it's an indicator that the whole system is not God's best for you. I would encourage people, of course, to put their trust in Jesus Christ for their salvation. Take an honest look at the person of Jesus as revealed in the Gospels. There's a reason why people always tiptoed around him, that he was always a threat to New Age teachers. He was the one who everyone had to try and account for, and everyone who was ultimately threatened by, including Anton LaVey. There's this deep hatred and animosity towards Christian fundamentalism. And I would encourage people to read the words of Jesus for yourself and see what he has to say about spirituality, about the nature of God, about the nature of man. Pray and ask God, ask Christ, if this is really you, I want to know you. If what I'm reading right now is a reflection of your heart, of your mind, of your words, please reveal this to him. And he promises you, he says, I will by no means turn away those who come to me. Whoever seeks will find. Whoever knocks, the door will be opened unto them. And I would encourage people to research the origins of some of these topics, some of these practices that they're involving themselves in, because they do have dark demonic underpinnings and origins that are very documentable in history. And I think, it's safe to say we don't want to be involving ourselves in the same kind of practices that are mirrored in spiritual Satanism. That's not a good place to start for spiritual well-being. When I personally was involved in New Age practice and New Age spirituality, when I was teaching this stuff, to call myself a wicked person is an understatement. My heart was hardened. My conscience was seared. I had all the symptoms of sociopathy without actually being a sociopath. I had all the symptoms of narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, without actually being a narcissist. I messed myself up so bad because of how I managed trauma, pain, insecurity, and because of the type of spirituality I was involved in, that I'd been exploring psychotherapy, since I got saved. These practices, they don't serve you. They don't bear good fruit in your life long term. They're ultimately destructive in the end. And when I came to Christ, I realized the sufficiency of Jesus. Because when you're a Christian, you're not just given a new worldview, like you're given the Spirit of God. Right? Jesus didn't come to give us a set of new beliefs. He came to give us himself. And when Jesus Christ is living inside of you, he's sanctifying you, he's refreshing you, he is renewing your mind, he is setting you apart from the power of sin, the influence of sin, the scars of sin, and he's making you a new creature in Christ. He's conforming you spiritually to his image, and he's doing supernatural work in you, day by day, transforming you into a new person. And so I would encourage people to give their lives to the Lord, partner with God, and to stop playing around with a spiritual system that, as we said earlier, mirrors that of spiritual Satanism. It's supernatural transformation by the Spirit of God, whom he gives us upon the hearing with faith.